What is the thing that you've learned the most since the rise of your success through books and everything you've done?
First of all, the answer to your question is, I think early in my career, I was so driven and just set on, like, I had some really moonshot goals in my head, and I was just so set on them and so driven to achieve them that I never really stopped and asked myself, like, what after that? Like, let's say you get there.
Now what?
Then what? Thought never even crossed my mind. I think there was just kind of this implicit assumption that, like, once I get there, everything's going to be gravy, so why worry about it? And the irony is that a huge part of that book is saying exactly the opposite of that, which is you never get away from problems in life. You just upgrade your problems, right? It's like success isn't the elimination of problems. Success is just getting better problems. And so once my career really took off and I hit a bunch of those moonshot goals that I had dreamed about, I looked around, I still had problems. In fact, I had like
bigger problems.
In a lot of ways, bigger problems. And that just messed with me. I was like, yeah, it really messed with me.
How did it make you feel, or what did it tell you about life? What did it teach you?
I think, again, it's not so much that I like believe things beforehand that weren't true. It's just there were things that I didn't account for or think about. And one of those too was that the higher on the mountain you get, the larger the stakes are, right? So it's like, if nobody knows who your name is and you post an article online and people hate it, nobody cares.
Yeah, 3 people. So, yeah.
You just delete the account, open a new one, start over.
Right.
Like, nobody will ever know. If you sold 10 million books and you post an article online and people don't like it, like, suddenly there's repercussions to that.
Did you ever experience that?
I definitely had like some controversy. I've never been like canceled, right? But
you had some criticism or negative feedback.
Yeah, I definitely had some pieces that,
really?
Oh yeah, that got a lot of blowback, especially back in 2020.
Really? Like, what was the topic? Or
people? It's funny because now in hindsight, I can recognize it. Like, everybody was just so
hypersensitive.
Oh my God, everything people off. Like, you could say anything and it wouldn't have anything to wouldn't have anything to do with politics or vaccines or COVID. Nothing. Like, it had nothing to do with it. And people find a way to construe it and be like, oh, you're one of those, and like blah blah blah. Yeah. So there were a few moments like in that period that I just got ravaged by a percentage of my audience.
Right.
Mainly just because I got lumped in with some sort of cause or political group or ideology or whatever, and they assumed that I was part of that, and they just went to town on me.
How does that make you feel, though, once you're at that level of success?
Oh, it sucks. It sucks, man. I mean, it is, I can honestly say writing newsletters in 2020 is the least fun my job has ever been.
Wow.
Because it was, I remember talking to my team, and it was like, man, writing a newsletter every week in 2020 was like, it's like being in a boxing ring and getting knocked down and like getting up and knowing you're about to get knocked out again.
Wow.
Because it felt like you couldn't say anything that you just wouldn't get ripped apart for.
I think this is one of the things that most people don't understand about having, a goal be achieved on some level greater than where you're at. Let's say you don't really have that much, or no one follows you, not that many people know about you, except for your inner circle of friends and family. And then all of a sudden, 1,000 times more people are aware of you.
Yep.
1,000,000 times more people are aware of you within a period of a year or a couple of years, and it grows. I don't think people understand that there's a whole different level of pressure that can come with it. There's a lot of privilege and opportunities and amazing things, but it's like, people don't know that you have to deal with a different type of pressure.
Yes.
And can anyone get away from that pressure with having some type of success?
I don't think so, because I mean, it's by definition, success is doing something extraordinarily rare, something that 99.99% of other people either haven't done or can't do, right? And once you've kind of reached that level of uniqueness, there's a lot of expectation that's put on you. Like you have an audience of millions now, so you're supposed to say something more empathetic or interesting or intelligent or whatever. The other thing that happens too, and I think this is particularly inherent with our line of work, which is having audiences, is that when your audience is relatively small, like let's say 1,000 people or even 10,000 people, that's usually it's going to be a pretty homogenous group, right? Like when I started my career, I specifically wrote dating advice for young men, and so my first 10,000 people in my audience, it was all
24-year-old guys or whatever,
dudes in their 20s. And so it's, you know what's going to piss them off and you know what's not. And once you reach kind of the level where we're at, where it's your audience is measured in millions, there's such a massive amount of diversity that it kind of feels like there's landmines everywhere, right? Right? Like there's,
oh man, that's a good analogy. Yeah, it's good.
I can see by the look on your face, you relate to what I'm saying. Like
you have to be cautious about what you're putting out there.
Totally, jokes that in your head are completely innocuous.
Right.
Like didn't even thought for 2 seconds about it. You know, there's somebody somewhere in some country that you've never even been to or thought of that is like extremely offended, and you get that email, and you're like, oh. All right, so won't make that joke again, you know? And it's, I always feel a little awkward, like getting into this subject because I never want to look like, the whining.
Right. Oh, woe is me.
Yeah, the whining millionaire.
The number one New York Times bestseller.
I wouldn't trade anything. Like I wouldn't go back, but it's again, if I could go back to myself, say, 6 months before everything blew up or took off,
what would you have said, or what do you wish you would have known to prepare yourself?
I wish I would have known, or what I would say to myself is like, you need to start thinking about contingency plan. You know, it's like, what if this thing does 10x your expectations? What if you do hit that moonshot and you're 32? Like, then what? What are you going to do? Right? And think about the expectations that are going to be put on you. Think about the pressures that are going to be put on you. If you make too much money, you should give it all away, or that means you're selfish, or, whatever. Some people don't have those sorts of moral beliefs tied with money. So I think it's probably the most important thing is just get very, very clear with your partner. What are each other's beliefs